Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm here with your co-host, Jerrika and Alex, and I am Alex Harriman. We're the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Jerrika, how you doing today?
Hey, Alex, I'm good. How have you been?
I've been doing well. What's new? What's going on with you?
I don't know if you've heard recently, but I don't know if I saw it on social media or I'm getting random emails, but apparently Christmas shopping this year is going to be very, what's the word? Basically, they're telling us all to shop now because there's a lot of shortages coming towards in the few coming months. So I've been
Great.
obsessively writing Christmas lists and starting my shopping because I'm worried that, things won't come in. I guess they're saying if you wait till like end of November, nothing's going to be in time. If you're someone who does the ordering to your doorstep, like myself. So now I'm totally out of fall and I'm heading into Christmas.
What is that going to mean for myself and the rest of the husbands that shop on Christmas Eve?
I'm not really sure. I guess you'd be at the mall with all the other husbands with your hoods on, like, please don't look at me.
Just scavenging for the last things on the racks. Yeah. There's just like one item on each rack.
And it sounds ridiculous. As I was saying this, I'm like, oh my God, I sound like one of those people that, bought all the toilet paper at COVID, but I wasn't. But I'm also just trying to be prepared so that I get the good gifts.
I mean, I regret it every year, leaving it to the last minute, but here we are, and I do it.
I mean, you're still married, and it's going well for you. So if it's working, why change it,
right? There's some room for improvement, I'm sure. I could maybe this year I won't leave it to the last minute. Thank you for the advice. I hadn't heard of the gift shortages, but now I'm aware.
I don't know if it's true, but I've started.
Right on. What topic do you have for us today?
Today I want to talk about, I don't even know how to really label the topic, but we've been asking questions from clients and like why, for example, why do I have less calories or points than so-and-so who, is the same height, relatively weight as me, and different ways. I want to kind of branch into factors that affect that, how our body burns calories, and we'll kind of go into depth about that a bit.
Cool. There's so many different ways we can take this. So do you want me just to take off on this?
First, I kind of wanted to dive into, let's just explain the different ways our body burns calories so people understand that. And then maybe we'll go into some factors and why we're so different to someone else.
Okay.
So the first way is obviously, there's a couple different ways, and I want to talk about our basal metabolic rate. So our body burns calories in different ways. And the first one would be basically the calories we burn to power our organs or physiological functions. And this is actually like the biggest percentage of our calories, right? I think it's about 60 to 75%, let's say. I mean,
it's different in every study you read, but that sounds accurate.
I'd say a larger portion would be, just working our organs, physiological functions. So my BMR is very different than yours, right? Because we're different sizes.
Yeah.
Digestion, I guess, would be another. So when we eat, we actually burn calories to break down the food, convert it into energy, whether our body decides to store it as fat. So that's a smaller percentage. That's about, let's say 10%.
Yeah.
And those are, again, things we can't change, right? These are just our numbers. A third way, and this is one I think we can really start to get into, would be physical activity. Mm-hmm. Now, physical activity can be broken down into two different kind of subtopics. Obviously, the physical activity, like our workouts, right? The dedicated time that we go outside or do a workout in the basement. This
purposeful
could be anywhere.
Movement.
Exactly. Purposeful movement. So this percentage can vary greatly depending on who we are. Mm-hmm. And dedicating, an hour could mean somewhere about 300 or so, let's say, calories burned. I think people always think they burn more calories in that 1 hour workout than they really do.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a big eye opener. But the last one I really want to talk about is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And I'm going to let you kind of talk about that one.
Cool. So non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT. You hear us talk about it often. It's one of the most underrated, probably the most underrated of everything here. It's the extra movement we do in a day. So you hear us talk about the other 23 hours. So say that our workout for the day accounts for 1 hour of our 23, or of our 24, the other 23 hours, what are you doing? Because so often we have people who train really hard for 1 hour, 3 to 5 times a week, and then they kind of sit on their ass the rest of the time. And that's where your NEAT comes in. And it doesn't mean you have to be an Energizer bunny, but I think we all know that person who never sits down, that person who's constantly busying around the house, the yard, they're moving things, they're cleaning things, they're like, it's just that person who can't sit still. That person who everybody thinks is just naturally skinny, well, it's because their NEAT is through the roof. Like everybody knows that person who doesn't sit still and they're just always skinny, right? You're burning an alarming amount of calories through that extra movement. That could be just walking the stairs instead of taking an elevator, walking further across a parking lot instead of parking right in front of the gym door. That's what.
You always bring that one up. I love it.
It's the one that always gets me. Like, people are at the gym for a workout and they fight over the closest spot to the gym. They'll sit in their car and wait for that spot to come empty. You're at the gym for a workout. Walking across the parking lot's not going to hurt you. But all of these little things, that's what makes up our NEAT. And it can absolutely, it can be a very little factor in how many calories you burn in a day if you sit on your ass and you have a desk job and you don't move a lot, or it can be a huge factor if you are that busy body. And I'm not saying you have to be that person, but certainly there's always room for some improvement with most people, where we can add in little 5-minute stair climbs or walks around the office or getting out during your lunch break. Like, increasing that other 23 hours, I guarantee you, is going to help you make progress.
That is the biggest factor. When I personally think, if you take myself and someone exactly my size, height, weight, everything, I could be a desk worker, right? And I might not get up much throughout the day. And then so-and-so can be I'm even a construction worker who's on their feet all day. And as a coach, when giving points or calories or talking nutritional information, that is one of the biggest factors that as coaches we have to take into account for, right? That's why when some of our clients are like, why does this person have way less than I do? Well, you probably move, significantly more. And that's why at B90 and we truly believe that everything's individualized, right? We have to have those conversations with people and get to know them and learn about their daily activities, because we can't just punch numbers into a calculator, right? And expect that both these two people are going to eat the exact same things throughout the day, because the NEAT, or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, is so different. So different.
Everybody wants that formula, like, okay, how many calories should I be eating? But the truth is, there are decent calculators for a starting point, but it's always a starting point. You start there and you monitor your progress, because your progress at the end of the day is the only thing that really matters. If you're not making progress, you either need to increase movement or decrease calories if you're trying to lose weight. And that could look a little different from person to person. I mean, a lot of times people say like, oh, we have crappy genes, or it's a hormonal issue, or usually genetics, hormonal issues, or age are three common ones that get blamed for not making progress. Are they affecting you? They could be. Absolutely, they could be. They could be changing the amount of calories you're burning in a day. So say they bring you down from here to here. Is it going to make it harder for you to lose weight? Yeah, it is. Is it impossible? No, it's probably not. I mean, unless there's some huge underlying medical condition, it's probably not going to make it impossible, but it could make it more difficult. But what you have to realize is that those factors are out of your control. You can't make yourself younger. You can't change your genetics. You can improve some of these hormonal issues through nutrition and exercise regularly, getting into a better sleep pattern that can have a long-term effect. But right away, you have no control over those factors. So you have to take what you're given and work with it. And over time, they will start to improve. And even at that, like, those are usually very, very small factors, typically. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it almost always comes down to which person is moving more and which person is eating less. Like,
exactly. And that's why every week, right? Every week we look at the bigger picture. We look at, the progress, and we make those changes needed based on how much you are moving. And we learn that about each individual person, which is why we can't compare to our friends that we're doing this with, right? Because as a coach, we look at, okay, how much are you moving? And then every week we learn more and more about you. And obviously some weeks you're going to move less, some weeks you're going to move more, but that's why this progress is tracked, and that's why we stay on top of it.
That's part of the reason too that we don't like people to change their calories based off of their movement, because you typically move consistent. So you might, like Jerrika said, you might have a day where you're really high because you did an event or a tournament or a race or something, and it's okay to eat a little bit more that day. But like, you shouldn't be, oh, I worked out today, so I'm going to increase my calories, because you're always going to estimate that improperly. And over time, if you don't add in calories for exercise, you'll just be able to change based off of your progress. And if your exercise levels stay consistent, then you don't have to worry about how many calories are being burned from exercise specifically.
I think that's a good point, because so often, some people use the MyFitnessPal app. Mm-hmm. And if you wear a Fitbit or an activity tracker, I think it like automatically gives you more calories when you move more on your fitness tracker. And I'm like, no. We already took into account your moving patterns. So then all of a sudden someone's like, I'm going to go and do, a 10K hike, and now I can go have that burger. It's like, no, we don't want to. That's not the relationship we're trying to learn.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to make that connection. One thing that we do that you can do yourself, if you're listening to this, is we assign higher nutrition days and lower nutrition days, which can kind of allow for that. So allow yourself a couple days a week of slightly higher calories and a couple days a week of slightly lower calories. And you can use those higher calorie days during big exercise days if that works well for you, if that's what you like. But it shouldn't be like an exercise so that I can eat more type of punishment.
Exactly. I also, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the one thing that I didn't mention is when you look at two people who are the same age, height, gender, and weight even, they're probably burning similar calories, but one factor that can play a huge difference is the muscle mass. Is that what you were going to just about say?
Exactly.
I could tell. I could tell I stole your thunder there.
That's all right. I like it.
Go ahead. You talk about it then.
No, I was just about to say that there's other factors outside of the ways that we burn calories that can affect, so that we can't compare person A, person B. And like you said, age is a big one, weight, height, gender or sex, and then muscle mass versus fat mass ratio. Yeah. Right.
The person who's carrying more muscle mass is going to burn more calories typically.
Absolutely. So then they might be able to afford more food, or they might need more food to replenish the breakdown of the more muscle that they have. So that was a big one, a big point of why I wanted to say there's no comparison between person A and person B.
And that could be a really hard one to tell too. I mean, you can look at somebody else and be like, yeah, I'm a pretty similar size to that person, but it's not always easy to tell how much muscle mass somebody's carrying unless you're super lean. If both people are really lean, then you can often tell which one is more muscular. But the average person, you're not going to be able to tell if they have another 5 or 10 pounds of muscle, especially in the lower half of their body.
Exactly. There's another one that I wanted to add that people don't realize is people get different calories and different numbers and points, however you may do your nutritional coaching, but how we track our food from person A to person B could be very, very different. So you might track your food. Alex might do his palm size, right? That's how we do it. And my palm's so much smaller that, again, you can't compare your numbers to somebody else, because, or how we, measure things out or eyeball it could be so completely different.
I'm glad you touched on that. I just had that one written down. So you stole that one from me, so we're equal.
There we
go. Room for error in general. So
yep.
Two people will never track the same unless you're using a scale and measuring cups and teaspoons. You're going to measure similar, but what you also have to understand is that even the packages in stores have room for error. I think they're allowed up to a 20% variance from the accurate calories. So the people packaging that, the company processing it, the ingredients that went into it, like there's going to be variances regardless. So you're never going to get it exactly right. So the best we can do is estimate often. But certainly once you start eyeballing food, which we try to teach all of our clients how they can eyeball portions rather than weigh and measure, there's going to be variances. Like two people are never going to track the same, and that's okay, as long as you track consistently to you, right? So just like you said, we might have very different points or calories, but as long as you stay consistent to you and you don't start tracking things differently week by week, and we constantly monitor your progress, then we can adjust till you're making progress or making results. It doesn't really matter what the variance is, but that's why you can never compare yourself to somebody else. There's just too many factors.
And the last thing I kind of wanted to touch on is basically like your lifestyle factors. So your sleep may be significantly different. You might be getting 4 or 5 hours a night, where so and so is getting 7, 8 hours, and the way that we repair and replenish for the next day, and digest and all these other factors during our sleep can greatly affect the next day's progress. And not only sleep, it could be our stress levels, right? That also plays a really big part. If someone that's high stress versus low stress will see very different progress and different numbers throughout the day.
For sure. Or I know we've got a lot of new parents that listen to this. So I mean, imagine a new parent listening to this whose kid is waking them up still like 4 or 5 times in the middle of the night. Your stress is through the roof, your sleep quality is through the floor. So both of those factors are affected. It's just unrealistic for that person to make the same progress, even if they were somehow able to train at the same intensity and still eat well. Their recovery is not going to be on par. They're probably not going to be able to exercise to the same level, and they're probably also going to reach for quicker, less nutritious food choices, because as we get higher stress levels and less sleep, we start to make poor choices.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really great point.
That was pretty much everything I wanted to touch on for this episode. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I forgot to add it on our last episode. We broke 1,000 listeners on our podcast.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, so we've had over 1,000 listens, so that's pretty cool. So we'll celebrate when we get to 2,000 again.
I love it. That's awesome. I'm going to leave everyone with a kitchen tip.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I guess this wouldn't be so much of a kitchen tip, more of a challenge. You and I both do this every morning. Before we have our first cup of coffee, we always drink water. And it sounds so simple, but before bed, I leave out my cup of water. I love room temperature water in the morning. It's easy to drink, and I will take that before I'm allowed my precious coffee. I'm around 500 to 1 liter is kind of my goal before my first coffee. Now, everyone's different. If you're having no water before your first coffee, let's start with a cup, right? And then increase. I think, Alex, you're up to consistently 1 liter before your rewarding coffee in the morning.
I was doing 1.5 liters for a long time. But what I found was I was wanted that coffee so bad that I was drinking 1.5 liters so quickly that I was just freezing in the morning because no food in my stomach and 1.5 liters of water, you're thinning your blood. And I was like, oh, so I have knocked it down to 1 liter consistently.
And it's amazing because now you're already 1 liter of water done. You're not trying to, for those who struggle with getting their water in at night and they have to wake up, go to the bathroom all night, this is a great way to kickstart your day and get most of your water, or if not, third of your water in before you even start.
For sure. Yeah, I love it. That's a great challenge. I'd be curious to hear who else is trying that. Let us know in the comments if you try it, if you do it, if you like it, and how much you drink before your precious coffee. Thank you guys for listening and for getting us past the 1,000 listener mark. It's really cool that we've had so many people loyally listening and enjoying it, and we're going to keep putting it out if you guys keep enjoying it. So make sure you let us know, review it, rate it, share it with your friends. Let's get this up to 2,000 and see where we can go from there. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. Have a great day.